I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
So good morning, everybody. Good morning. Excellent. All right, so welcome to Newton North's second annual Martin Luther King Jr. Speech Contest. Woo! Yeah, all right. You guys start. My name is Melissa Dilworth, and I'm the chair of the English department, and I have the pleasure of introducing all of these guys here today. In his iconic speech, I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King Jr. dared to dream for a better America. His powerful and rousing language reminded us of the fierce urgency of now. He said, "This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off, to take the tranquilizing drugs of gradualism." Through his famous speech, he inspired others to act rather than to wait, cool off, or simply dream about change. To commemorate Dr. King's legacy and to honor his power to persuade, all sophomore students were asked to create and deliver a 3-minute speech in which they motivated their peers to effect positive change in their world. In doing so, they worked on presence, articulation, voice. They wrote and revised their words to be powerful, clear, and compelling. They wrote for momentum. They wrote for purpose. They wrote to inspire you to make a difference. Though all students gave speeches, one student from each sophomore class was selected as the winner to advance to the semifinal round. Those students then competed against one another to become finalists when they gave their speeches to a panel of 5 judges. Today you will hear the speeches of the 5 finalists, and a new panel of judges will decide this year's winner and runner-up. Our semifinalists will also introduce themselves and share their thought-provoking and inspiring speech topics. Please join me in congratulating everyone up here. These students represent the top speakers of the sophomore class. And now I'd like to introduce the new panel of judges who will evaluate their speeches. Principal Jennifer Price. Sophomore Housemaster Dave Turcotte. And last year's speech winner, Tommy Mobley. One other thing to note before we begin. We moved the venue this year to accommodate the demand of people who wanted to see these speakers strut their stuff. In doing so, we've changed the rules a little bit on these guys last minute because they're used to performing in a classroom setting and projecting. They had some fine practice, many of them, on the football field, so this should be helpful for today. But many of these speakers are not going to use the microphone, and they're going to speak and command the stage. Some will use the podium, but some will be out there. We ask for total silence so that you can hear everything that is said. All right, but what these guys need before we begin is a little bit of energy. So are you guys ready? All right, so let's welcome our first speaker, Davio Pena.
Suicide is the third leading cause of death among young people, resulting in about 4,400 deaths per year, according to the CDC. For every suicide, there are about 100 attempts. Almost 14% of high school students have considered attempting suicide. Now think about it. Out of the 100 young men and women that you know in this building alone, 14 of them have thought about taking their own life. And 7 of those 14 have actually tried it. Now sit back and think about that. Bullying will put anybody in a very dark place, a place where no one even thinks they can get to. And just like anything else in life, it has a breaking point. Bullying victims are 2 to more times more likely to consider suicide than those who have never been bullied. Being bullied isn't easy. I should know. I have first-hand experience with the feeling of being put down and being forced into a corner with no one behind you. It was tough, it really was. Knowing that I'd walk through the front doors of my elementary school and what was coming was going to be tough. It sucked, honestly. But hey, man, I'm still standing here on my own 2 feet, pushing on strong. But the sad thing is, we can't say that about every victim of bullying. According to statistics reported by ABC News, nearly 30% of high school students are either victims of bullying or bullies themselves. And 160,000 kids stay home from school each and every day to avoid being bullied. I just don't understand how this got so out of control. And the saddest part about it is it's our own peers and even ourselves feeding into it at times. People are always preaching how they don't bully others and how they hate it so much, when the fact is they don't do anything to stop it. When in fact, they're probably feeding into it. And people don't understand that bullying comes in so many shapes and forms. Just sitting at the lunch table with your boys or your girls, talking all that trash about the way that girl got you so pissed today, how she was sitting there dressing and looking all ugly, even when you're talking how that dude stank, how he always stank, how his swag is way off point. Everybody does it. I know I sure as hell do. Everyone wants their mouth. And people don't understand that that right there is bullying. You are putting that boy or girl down for the way they dress, talk, walk. Stupid little things like these just spread from person to person before you know it. They're labeled as that boy or girl who always stinks or looks like a dirty dog. You might not realize it, but that moment at the lunch table is where it all starts. Words spread and they hurt even more. Bullying needs to stop. Who are we to ever put someone down for what they see as okay? The human race is very diverse. So many different styles of clothing, eating, cooking, speaking, you name it, there will be so many different versions of it because of the diverse world we live in. So everybody is different in their own unique way. That doesn't mean we have to put them down for it. Just stop it. Stand up against the unnecessary hatred that has become so intertwined with our society. Who are you? You ever ask yourself that question? Who am I? I don't understand how people can ask themselves that and be able to label themselves as bullies. How can you go home and look yourself in the mirror knowing that you could have sent somebody home with tears on their face, maybe even blood on their wrists? And people don't know that blood stains, no matter how many times you wash it off. But it doesn't only stain the bully's skin. It doesn't only stain the victim's skin, but it stains the bully's soul. And you can never get rid of that. Thank you.
Everyone has a place they find they can escape to, and I too have a special place. There, I am seen as the person I am. But when I leave, I can feel my limbs begin to heavy with worry, with guilt, with the feeling in the back of my head that yes, I am being watched because my eyes are now open, and when I look down, I no longer see what everyone else saw in this dream. I see the one thing that has kept me chained from this dream. I see my black skin. Many Americans are under the false impression that we live in a post-racial society, but racial discrimination and oppression is still here, still happening. In 2012, Trayvon Martin, a black teenager, was shot and killed by George Zimmerman, who accused him of carrying a weapon. But the only thing Martin possessed was a bag of Skittles in an Arizona can. In a recent 3-year study, Blacks comprise 85% of all individuals that had physical force used against them by authorities. And in that same study, represented an outnumbered source of people that had been frisked by the NYPD. So are you shocked that a black mother has to carry the burden of sitting her son down and telling him how to calculate his steps in a store? Walk in, buy what you need, walk out. Why, Mom? Because you're black. I was listening to the news one day, and there was a woman on the screen, and she was saying something regarding the Trayvon Martin case. And mind you, she was dressed prim and proper, and she said,
"Well, I can understand why society would look down on these young men. I didn't look at them with his pants hanging low.
it's no wonder society treats these kids like criminals. How can we treat Americans that we are all equal when statements like these are being thrown around?" But you know, I almost can't blame her for saying what she said. I find that it's not easy to understand the oppressed when you have never been oppressed yourself. This woman will never have to sit her son down and tell him that because he is black, he needs to act a certain way. As she strolls into a high-end store, her moves won't be followed with cautious eyes, and they won't think twice when she places an item on the counter. She will never have to feel that because she was born with something as minuscule as skin pigment, that she is already guilty of something, isn't worthy of the same respect. But just because it is not easy to understand the oppressed, that is no excuse to sweep it under the rug. As the youth, we've proven how much we're capable of. Stand out as the generation that takes a stand. Yes, this is a stain that will probably take generations and generations to remove, but pretending that it doesn't exist won't help fade it any faster. Be the generation that takes the lead, together, without judgment or discrimination, but with sympathy and understanding. Because as strong as he, she, or I may perceive ourselves to be, our knees are far too weak to carry this burden that has been placed on our shoulders. This is not only my reality. This is not only your reality. This is the United States of America's reality. We may have cracked the lens of justice in the past, but we are a new generation with a new set of eyes. It's time we start using them.
There are two types of people in this world. People who overcome their fears, and people who don't and live in the shadows of them. Naturally, we try to avoid things that scare us. After all, if a huge venomous tarantula is crawling towards you, you aren't just going to sit there and drink a cup of tea. Now, there are some things we should be afraid of, and others we shouldn't. But is there a book named Things We Should Be Afraid Of? No, that's ridiculous. The power is in your hands to make that decision. When I was 4 years old, I was afraid of peeing at night. I don't know why, but I would wake up in the middle of the night for no reason and suddenly have to go. But I was afraid of monsters. The ones in Monsters, Inc., like the big blue hairy one and the green midget with one eye. I was afraid if I walked to the bathroom, they would eat me. So most of the time, I would just hold it in. Sometimes, I would wet the bed. I would usually get out of bed and do that awkward walk when you've really got to go. Then I'd start pep talking myself. Come on, young, you've got this. Stop being a wimp. But I would never actually go. I was afraid. Well, one day I finally did go, and I was never afraid of going again. When we hear the words, courage and brave, we often misinterpret them as fearless or mighty. But a courageous person is just a regular person who has the will to overcome fear. Nelson Mandela once said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Now don't get me wrong, fear is a natural instinct, and confronting your fears isn't easy at all. But we've got to try. So I challenge every single one of you to pick one thing that you're afraid of. Whether you're afraid of public speaking, socializing, or talking to that cute girl or handsome guy sitting next to you. And as Nike would say, just do it. Why, you may ask? Because you can't live life to the fullest if you're afraid of your own shadow. You can't expect to reach for the stars if you're afraid of falling. And when you're afraid of heights, the sky isn't the limit. You are.
What are we doing wrong that tackling, catching, blocking takes priority over educating the future citizens of our world? How many of you have refreshed Twitter or Facebook and gotten updates on the current score of a game or a really good tackle? I know I have. I've even contributed to those, but how many of you have refreshed Twitter and seen that America has dropped in the national ranking for education? We all think our country's so great, we're the back-to-back World War champs, but we don't even place in the top 10 for education. Vietnam, still considered a third world country, is even ahead of us. Come on, guys! I did some of the math, and if a teacher works 180 days a year, which most do, they make a mere $166 a day. While an NFL football player who plays 17 games a season, if they make it to the Super Bowl, fingers crossed, makes a crazy $117,647 a game.
Now, don't get me wrong, I really do love football, but shouldn't we reconsider our reasoning for prioritizing a man catching and throwing a ball versus a teacher educating and influencing our society and world? One day, all of these children will be the business owners and bankers, the lawyers, the doctors, social workers, educators that we are all going to rely on. So maybe we're not important enough to raise the salary for teachers, but we can all contribute in our own ways to prioritizing those educators who alter so many students' lives for the better. One day, as my friend and I were leaving class, she turned to me and said, "Harry, why do you always say thank you as we're leaving?" I didn't really think much of it. I just explained it seemed right, you know. You thank the Dunkin' Donuts guy for handing you your coffee. You thank your teacher for giving you an hour. Guys, even long blocks deserve a thank you. So, give a teacher a note on how much you appreciate their hard work. Or even just simply say thank you after class to compensate for our society who shows very, very little recognition. If we all individually stop refreshing Twitter to check the scores and stop bombing our tests because we spent our entire Sunday on the couch watching Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, we will all individually show America that education is and should be our priority. So take a stand and tackle the problem, not the football. Thank you.
And now our final finalist, Timur Gizatulin.
Have you ever felt excluded from something you wanted to be a part of? Have you ever felt alienated from society? Has someone ever told you that you couldn't do something most people your age could do? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you can probably relate to my story. That's right, story time, ladies and gentlemen. My story begins during 2004, first day of kindergarten. Like any typical 6-year-old, I was excited to start my first day of school, oblivious to the obstacles that would get in my way. I did not expect that I would be considered a special education student and would receive an IEP with the dreaded words, lacks social communication, or lacks motor skills, written on the cover. This language made me feel like an outsider of the social world. I began to feel like I didn't fit in with the rest of my class, and it only became worse when my teaching assistants would pull me from the classroom. The small group of friends that I had initially made slowly decreased until I was left all by myself. When I transitioned into middle school, my teaching assistants were now giving me more independence, which was great, but I was still being pulled away whenever I felt anxious and was not allowed to go back. By being pulled away, I did not have the opportunity to interact with my peers or complete any assignments in the general ed classroom. According to a recent study reported in The Guardian, a British newspaper, 22% of children with disabilities in the U.S. are legally excluded from school once a week. I felt like I was being wrongly excluded. I marched straight to my inclusion facilitator's office and said, "I want to talk about my inclusion in the classroom." She replied, "If you want to be included more, then you need to behave yourself." This response was upsetting because my anxiety was being perceived as misbehavior. Since when did being anxious have anything to do with bad behavior? In my personal opinion, I should not have been judged by my anxiety in class, but by my academic abilities. I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. I was just being myself. These are feelings that no other student of any kind should have to feel, and as a community, we need to become more aware of exclusion. One of the ways that we could end exclusion is by promoting more awareness about special education by special education students. I believe it's important for our voices to be heard. By hearing our side of the story, this will help all students, peers, and teachers have a better understanding of what special education students go through. A human being should not be judged or isolated from society just because he is feeling anxious. A human being should not be treated like he is different just because he is different. Isn't it true that we are all different from one another? Someday, in the near future, I wish to see special education students blended into the sea of all people. According to Dr. Seuss, a person is a person, no matter how small. I would even tweak the quote by adding, a person is a person, no matter how small or different.
I'm now going to ask the judges to go and discuss, argue, and make the very difficult decision of determining a runner-up and the winner of today's speech contest. While they are deliberating, we're going to hear from the semifinalists about what they chose to write about.
Hi, my name is Emma Schoberg, and my speech is called Take a Deep Breath, and it's about the impact of college on our lives. I wrote it because I feel that we have so much stress on us, and we all deserve a break from that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dana Van Kornman, and I wrote my speech on gay marriage, and it was called Stand Up and Put a Stop to It. I wrote my speech on gay marriage because I based it off of my sister, who is a lesbian and will be getting married in June of this year.
Hi, I'm Julia Dwyer. My speech was called Breaking the Silence, and it was about why we shouldn't do the Day of Silence, because how can you fight homophobia? By being silent. Hi, my name is Ellen Batutis, and my speech was called The Joys of Lying, and it was about how we all should lie more because manipulating people is fun.
Hi, my name's Nadav Conforti, and my speech was called No One Knows Us Like We Do. It's about our generation's need to advocate for ourselves and be our own people and our own change. And I wrote it because I feel that our generation is not heard as much as normal. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex Hoffman, and the title of my speech is Let's Kill the Stigma. It's about depression in our society today, and I wrote it because we need to accept our weakness and realize that vulnerability makes us human.
Hi, my name is Markina Roscoe, and my speech was about violence in Boston among blacks in our society.
Hi, I'm Kristen Cox, and the title of my speech was Our Internal Clocks. I wrote my speech about starting school later because I believe that sleep deprivation is preventing our success in school.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Cole. The title of my speech was The Perfect Storm, and I encourage everyone to put down technology because there's a benefit to being away from computers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jonah Pemstein. My speech was called Why Cheating is Wrong, and it was about cheating in sports. And I wrote it because I think it's a bigger problem than a lot of people realize, and it needs to stop.
Hi, I'm Sam Lamb. The title of my speech was Smartphoning, and it is about our dependence and overuse of smartphones. I wrote this because I noticed no matter wherever I go, I see at least one person texting or listening to music or doing both. And I just think, if you were to just stop, you will have more time to do important things like writing speeches.
Hello, my name is Sam Eastman. My speech was called Censorship Throughout American History, and I wrote it about why I question content that comes out in other parts of the world gets shut down in America, and just why I feel like the general public shouldn't be as sensitive to certain things that wouldn't be aimed at them in the first place. Thanks a lot.
Hello, my name is Anthony Martinez, and my speech was called As It Begun, and it's about classical music, and I wrote it because classical music had decreased during these last years, and people should listen to it more. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Edward Dang. My speech is called The Leap, and it talks about suicide and why thinking about suicide, why we have to help people who think about it, and I dedicated it to my brother, who really struggled with this sort of thing.
Hey, my name is Ian Downey. My speech is called The Peace Sign, and I wrote it because war is generally bad.
My name is Owen Boucher. My speech was Where's the Love? I chose the speech because I want to spread love to everyone in my community. Go Pats.
Hi, my name is Connor Larkin. My speech title was Finding Our Own Optimism, and I wrote this because it's a positive topic we can all relate to.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith. My speech title is The Monster, and it talks about my personal struggle with depression and how you guys can help.
Hi, my name is Lexi Gershkowitz. The name of my speech is Spread the Word to End the Word. In my speech, I talk about how growing up with a brother with special needs has made me more aware of using the word retarded negatively.
We'll give the judges a few more minutes to deliberate because we know that this is a very difficult decision. But once again, I'd just like to congratulate everyone up here, not only because they combated their fears of public speaking and started working on this by themselves, slowly sharing it with a peer or two, presenting to the class, presenting to a panel of teachers, and now I don't know how intimidating you look, but you look pretty intimidating up here to give their speeches, but not only talk in front of you, but to share many personal feelings about topics that are near and dear to them, and they expose a vulnerability that I think shows great courage and bravery. I would also like to thank all of the parents and guardians, other family and friends who came out to support the students up here. I would like to cordially invite you and the rest of the semifinalists and finalists up to the English office in 359 immediately following this awards ceremony for a little reception. So that, again, that's up in 359 where we shall talk and again They'll be with us, I'm sure, in 1 minute. I don't know. Check on this. Hurry up along.
sorry it took us a long time, but that wasn't really long to make a very difficult decision. So we did our best, and it's hard, but in runner-up, Young. And the winner of this year's contest, Timor.
Yeah.